Hello, my name is Bakhtier Shakhnazarov. I am in Toronto, Canada. Today I want to share with you my thoughts about how the Human Rights Commission of Canada is dealing with my human rights complaint against my former employer, which is Porter Airlines, and another authority inside that airport, which is Port Toronto. Yaxshimisizlar? Men Bakhtier Shakhnazar, Toronto, Kanadadan sizga video blogni olib boryapman. Inson huquqlari mahkamasiga huquqlarim diskriminatsiya qilinganligi haqida shikoyat keltirgandim. Mana shu Kanada inson huquqlari mahkamasi uni qanday bir yoqlama ko'rib chiqilayotgani haqida sizga hikoya qilib bermoqchiman. Human Rights Commission's file number is 202-00531, Bakhtier Shakhnazarov against Porter Airlines. Client submission on human rights recommendation dated September 28, 2022, not to do with my complaint. The Human Rights Commission, on its recommendation dated 28th of September 2022, deliberately omitted many very important facts and details, misinterpreted or ignored my evidence I mentioned in my submissions, emails, and phone conversations with Vanessa Davidson, Megan Kavanagh, and Andrea Ann Roy, the human rights officers, HRO. However, they relied on other people's misleading information while preparing the recommendation. I was allowed to make my submissions in 5 pages only initially, whereas the recommendation itself consists of 90 paragraphs. I needed at least 10 pages additional to respond to half of them. But the Commission twice denied my request for additional pages. The Commission allowed additional pages only after I called the Human Rights Commission directly and persuaded her to bring the matter to the attention of her manager. Even 10 pages wasn't enough for me. The Human Rights Commission dealt with my complaint superficially. The Commission's human rights officers were prejudiced towards me while evaluating my complaint. First, in my original complaint, I didn't bring details of the discrimination because I assumed that the Human Rights Commission would set a hearing date where I'd be able to give full evidence. Secondly, I rectified it in my submissions where I presented the details of the facts of discriminations against me. But the Commission ignored them completely in its recommendation. I don't know why. I compared the recommendation with the court decisions being made in my country of origin. Most of the judges doesn't make any effort on drafting a decision. They simply copy the prosecutor's allegations in their decision, completely ignoring the defense arguments. That's what's happening here too. Thirdly, from the very beginning, the Human Rights Commission should have asked me if I was unionized or not, because I didn't know that unionized employees had to go through the process within the union first and only file a complaint with the Human Rights Commission after all resources are exhausted. It would have saved a lot of taxpayers' money and precious time for the Human Rights Commission. But to ease their workload, the Commission deliberately had spent more than 2 years wasting and draining taxpayers' money. To save space, below I'm mainly writing those facts that were omitted, misinterpreted, or based on the wrong information. My son worked for Porter Airlines in 2013 to 2015 as a customer service ambassador and a customer service representative. I got employment with Porter Airlines because of my son, who made a referral for me so I could apply for a position. After graduating from Seneca College from 2016 to 2019, he worked as a for the respondent as a dispatcher. My son was planning to work for Porter Airlines as a pilot in the coming years when he gets qualified. I used to tell him about the discrimination, harassment at my workplace. My son asked me not to restrain my relationship with the management. He was afraid that the problems I was having with the Porter would affect his professional career as a pilot in the future, and Porter wouldn't hire him later because of me. Even if fired, he would hear rumors and referrals about his father going against Porter Airlines. That was the main reason I didn't take any legal action or filed a human rights complaint, missing the limitation time about the events that took place during 2015 to 2018. Ports Toronto's and the respondent's discriminative suspension in May 2017 had a huge negative impact on my career with Porter Airlines. But I couldn't do anything as my son still was working for Porter. As a father, I had to opt between my own and my son's interests. If the Commission doesn't support my decision, then it means the family values are not respected in this country anymore. Paragraphs 39 to 40. In 2017, I didn't know that discipline I was given in February and suspension in May I was given by the respondent constituted a human rights violation. Porter Airlines didn't discipline other employees who post non-work related ads in the employee's website. When I initially spoke to Mr. David Robinson, the union's representative, about the discipline, he just told me that the union would file a grievance, as he was sure that I didn't deserve any discipline because I made an honest mistake, and besides I apologized twice. But the union has agreed with the reduced discipline after having meeting with the management. I wasn't advised that there were further levels to go, and I had to accept the outcome only. Concerning the suspension in May 2017, the union said it wasn't the case where the union could get involved with, because the initial suspension was given by Ports Toronto, which is a separate authority. The union has never explained to me that it was a human rights violation when the respondent didn't accommodate me, refusing my request to work at the check-in area, which is not restricted area. Porter Airlines plotted with Ports Toronto to orchestrate a fake notice of infraction against me, and I can prove everything with the documents. I was suspended unfairly for my 2 minutes long video I made public on YouTube.
Ana shu may oyining boshlarida aviakompaniyaga styuardessalar tanlovi e'lon qilinibdi va unda 500 ga yaqin talabgor ishtirok etibdi. Hammadan qizig'i shundaki, mana shu tanlov asosan rus tilida o'tkazilibdi. Holbuki O'zbekistonda davlat tili o'zbek tili va O'zbekiston milliy aviakompaniyasi O'zbekistonga qarashli bir aviakompaniya. Bu juda ham qiziq holat.
But other Caucasians who did the same as me weren't even disciplined. Filing a grievance is a part of the work-related procedure. An employee can seek assistance when he or she doesn't agree with the discipline or work-related suspension. It's my understanding that bringing a complaint on discrimination is a huge issue. I thought I had to file a complaint with Human Rights Commission directly, and it would become public. Only in 2019, I realized that the discipline and suspension from 2017 constituted a human rights violation. From 2017 to the summer of 2021, I didn't know that I had to ask the union to file a grievance on the human rights discrimination. In the late 2019 and early 2020, I let them know about the facts I wrote in my complaint. Still, the union representatives have never mentioned that they could help me with filing a grievance based on the discrimination. Union representatives serve to the respondent actually, not to employees like me. In 2018, there was an election and I nominated myself too. When I spoke to Franz Yeung, one of the union representatives, about my plans on how to protect the interests of my fellow CSRs, he told me that we were working for Porter Airlines and we couldn't go against our employees' plans on wages and benefits. The Human Rights Commission erred again, alleging that I haven't provided a reasonable explanation for the delay in contacting the Commission. See my response to the paragraph 37 for the details. On July 17, 2015, the respondent didn't accommodate me for a Muslim holiday. I just was hired 2 days ago and had no clue about asking the union to file a grievance. Moreover, I was afraid that I'd get fired if I opposed. The union representatives have never mentioned or explained to me that they could have helped me with filing a grievance based on a discrimination. Moreover, even after I let the union's representatives know about the issues with discrimination in late December 2019 and early January 2020, they did absolutely nothing. I assumed that filing a complaint on discrimination with the Human Rights Commission was a huge issue that would make a loud noise. It's my understanding that if I filed the complaint with the Commission directly, then it would become public and negatively affect my son's future plans with Porter. And now paragraphs 47 to 48 of the recommendation. The named analysis is full of misunderstanding by the human rights officers of the substance of my complaint and my further communications. It results in an unfair outcome for me. Andrei Anarov, the human rights officer who dealt with my complaint, asked me to explain the reason why I waited for 5 months to ask the union to file the grievance. I told her that in summer of 2021, the respondent submitted that Porter Airlines was very sensitive to any allegations of discrimination and there were certain procedures to deal with them in an expeditious way. On July 28, 2022, the Commission decided that my complaint would be dealt with through another process with the union. It meant I had to ask the union to file a grievance on the facts of discrimination. A few days later, I was recalled to work after being laid off for almost 1.5 years due to pandemic. I started retraining that consists of an online, in-class and on-site training. There were some technical issues with the online module, but I didn't receive a response from the management in time. At the beginning of September 2021, I was taken to the emergency room by an ambulance where I spent the night. Because of my illness, I missed the time to finish the online program. I let the management know about my sickness and asked for extra time to complete the online training. But the respondent left it unanswered and didn't show any signs of compassion. Again, I felt discriminated against, although I passed all tests and on-site training. However, the manager asked me to redo all training. It was nonsense, but the management had left me with no choice. Besides, I didn't want to restrain my relationship with my employer, hoping that I'd be invited to talk about my human rights complaint as per Porter's regulation and procedures. However, nothing happened. I was allowed to go back to work on October 6, 2021, when I completed the full training for the second time. Even after that, the respondent didn't initiate any conversation or meeting about my complaint. I got confused. I realized that the respondent's submission about quickly reacting to any allegations of human rights violations was a farce. On October 15, 2021, I emailed to the Human Rights Commission about those facts above. Looks like the Commission was very busy to respond to my urgent email. I received the response 2 months later, can you imagine? On December 12, 2021 only. The Commission advised me to ask the union to file a grievance. I immediately emailed the 3 union members at Porter Airlines asking them to file a grievance and attached a copy of my human rights complaint. In its recommendation, the Human Rights Commission deliberately didn't evaluate the request I filed with the union asking to file a grievance and what happened further. Moreover, the Commission omitted many related facts and misrepresented others. On December 14, 2021, Denise Cochrane, assistant to the president of the Unifor Local 2002, emailed me that she received my complaint. She wrote that due to Christmas and New Year holidays, she would return to my request in the new year. Not much has been done until February 16, 2022, when she emailed me, I'm quoting, "I had reached out to the company to initiate discussions around your file. A few weeks back, they advised that they had not seen a copy of the decision and would try to get one. They have indicated today that they still have not been successful in getting a copy. In order to move forward, are you in agreement to have the decision shared with Porter?" End of the quote. Of course, I shared my copy of the decision. The respondent openly lied about not receiving the Commission's decision dated July 28, 2021, and deliberately slowed down the process. But the Commission omitted this very important fact of lie and didn't evaluate it at all. Although I forwarded the related string of emails to the Commission on May 30th, 2022. I contacted the Human Rights Commission about the situation with my grievance. On February 18, 2022, the Commission emailed to Denise Cochrane, I'm quoting, "Dear Denise Cochrane, this is following the letter of decision that was sent on July 28, 2021, referring Bakhtier Shakhnazarov to their grievance process. In order for the Commission to proceed with our process, we require an update on which step of the process the grievance has reached. Kindly respond to this email with an update on the grievance and please confirm if the process is still available." End of the quote. But the union has never filed a grievance and breached the collective agreement. This very straightforward evidence was again completely ignored by the Commission to make favor to the respondent, not to me. I emailed Denise Cochrane about the Commission's email, and on February 18, 2022, she responded, I'm quoting, "Hi Bakhtier, yes, I received the email. I'm not sure if it will be the local or the national responding, but we will copy you nonetheless." End of the quote. Union. Until this point, I thought that the union was going to file a grievance. Even after reading the Human Rights Commission's email, people from the Unifor Local 2002 didn't know what to do with my request to file a grievance. Can you imagine that? I'm sure that they didn't want to deal with it and forwarded my request to the National Union. It was illegal doing so, as the collective agreement has no article about transferring the grievances to the National Union. Unifor Local 2002 had not enough courtesy even to ask for my permission to do so. I can only assume that some VIPs from outside advised the union to transfer the case. My email sent to the Commission on February 20, 2022 says, I'm quoting, "The Human Rights Commission employee, I think Ms. Miriam, called me on February 17, 2022. I shared with her my concerns about the union and Port Airlines, the respondent, impeding the process of filing a grievance. More than 2 months have passed since I asked the union to file a grievance, but nothing has been done so far. I don't know the reason why the union is not filing a grievance. According to the union, Porter twice asserted that it didn't receive the human rights decision dated July 28, 2021. What a blatant lie. I can't believe Porter could say that. After that, on February 18, 2021, the Human Rights Commission sent an email to the Unifor Local 2002 and me. Later, I emailed Dennis Cochrane, the union's assistant president, and I asked her if she received your email." End of the quote. I see the Human Rights Commission thinks that union did the right thing not filing a grievance. However, the recommendation doesn't say anything about this important fact. What the Commission is biased towards me, I don't know why. On February 20, 2022, I sent an email to the Commission. I am bringing the entire email as it clarifies many issues raised. I'm quoting. Mrs. Cochrane's response means that the union is not sure whether the local or the national union would deal with my complaint. It also means that, in addition to the respondent, the union will do everything to impede filing a grievance. As I said to you during our phone conversation last Thursday, during 2017 to 2020, the union has discriminated against me by not taking further steps on my grievances. It was reasoned that my case wasn't worth spending money on a lawyer. The union didn't let me even know there were further steps available actually to go with the grievance. I wrote about those facts in my submission. Please refer to the section D of my submission named "Why the Union Can't Be a Third Party to Negotiate My Case." I said that asking the union to file a grievance meant sending the sheep to the wolf. However, the Commission decided not to deal with my complaint at this stage, as I didn't exhaust all steps that were available in my workplace, and advised me to ask the union to file a grievance. However, the union had already knew about discrimination. Initially, I let the union know about the discrimination against me on December 29, 2019, when I had a meeting with 2 representatives of the union that was held by the request of the respondent's manager. On January 5th, 2020, another union member emailed to all members about my concerns being discriminated against, but neither union nor Port Airlines did nothing about them. On December 14, 2021, I emailed the union asking to file a grievance with my employer. I attached my human rights complaint to my email. More than 2 months has passed ever since, but the union didn't even file a grievance. Section 6.05a of the collective agreement says, should the step 1 decision be unsatisfactory, or if no decision is made within the specified time limits, or no hearing scheduled, the union may appeal to the company's vice president of airport operations within 10 calendar days. But Porter Airlines asserts that it didn't even receive human rights decision dated July 28, 2021. In its submissions, Porter Airlines, the respondent, wrote that immediate measures would be taken if any employee like me informs about the facts of discrimination. The Human Rights Commission made its decision on July 28, 2021. After the layoff, I went back to work on August 16, 2021. However, the respondent didn't say a word about my human rights complaint ever since up until today. Moreover, my employer kept harassing and discriminating me, not showing any empathy when I was sick, when I informed them about attending an emergency room in the hospital. Despite that, I finished 2 weeks of training successfully, but the respondent asked me to redo the entire training one more time. Can you imagine that? I had to attend the training again for another 2 weeks. In the submission, respondent wrote, Porter takes great exception to the allegations of discrimination in employment on the grounds of national or ethnic origin, color, disability, and religion made in the complaint. Knowing the fact that I filed a human rights complaint, I expect that the respondent would initiate a meeting with me, but respondent did nothing. Moreover, it kept harassing and discriminating me. It all made me very confused. On October 15, 2021, I emailed the Commission asking if the respondent received the decision dated July 28, 2021. I received the response 2 months later on December 13, 2021. Can you imagine? What a response, quick response, right? This is in response to an email dated October 15th, 2021. I can confirm that the respondent was indeed sent a copy of the letter of decision sent on July 28, 2021. I trust you filed a grievance with your union as per the decision sent to you on the same date. As I wrote above, on December 14, 2021, I asked the union to file a grievance. When the union contacted Porter Airlines twice about my complaint, in response to the union's inquiries, Porter claims that it has never received the human rights decision from July 28, 2021. Meanwhile, the part of the collective agreement titled Complaint Resolution Discrimination or Harassment says, C. The company and the union will review the complaint and, where warranted, a joint investigation will be conducted. D. It is the intention of the union and the company that, where practical, a joint investigation will begin within 5 calendar days of the lodging of the written complaint and shall be completed within 15 calendar days after the lodging of the investigation. H. Nothing herein shall prevent an employee from seeking redress under the Canadian Human Rights Act with respect to complaints of discrimination and harassment. All above shows that neither the union nor Porter Airlines is interested in doing anything about facts of discrimination against me. Considering that, I asked the Human Rights Commission to deal with my complaint and schedule a hearing. End of the quote. My email above should have been more than clear to the human rights officer who prepared the recommendation. A hearing needed to be scheduled after that, but the Commission treated me differently, not willing to understand my case and not evaluating the facts and reasons I wrote to explain the delay in filing my complaint. In fact, the Commission impeded my case too. First, there was another human rights officer, Megan Kavanagh, who dealt with my complaint. She called me and emailed me on many occasions, and I did the same. Human Rights Commission asked me to all over again and again about my allegations, the answers to which I already provided in my submissions, emails, and during our phone conversations. Secondly, Andrea and Roy, a new human rights officer, was assigned to my case in 2022. She also starts emailing and calling me, asking me to provide the same explanations on the issues that I've been contacted by the previous human rights officer. It was frustrating to remember those events repeatedly. It made me nervous and angry that Mrs. Roy didn't care checking my previous explanations to get a full response to her inquiries. My response to the paragraphs 51 and 54. In one of its submissions, respondent attached to Section 6 grievance procedure of the collective agreement. Sections 6.02 and 6.06, which respondent refers to, doesn't say anything about filing a grievance on discrimination. Those sections only mention a grievance on disciplinary action or loss of employment, including an administrative dismissal or dismissal or suspension of an employee. I couldn't have known about asking the union to file a grievance on discrimination. Even when I spoke to the union representatives about the facts of discrimination on several occasions, they didn't advise me what to do at all. It's my understanding that representatives are supposed to transfer my concerns to the management, but the respondent has never spoken to me about discrimination. Although in its submission, respondent wrote that, I'm quoting, Porter takes great exception to the allegations of discrimination. End of the quote. But in my case, the respondent has not done anything but increase the pressure on me when I went back to work in the middle of August 2021 after being laid off due to a pandemic. Union has never enlightened me or other employees about the process of filing a grievance. Union has never explained to me what the further steps in the grievance process were. Union has never taken the grievance to the higher level, although sympathized with me. In my case, the union took the grievance to the next steps only after I was fired on March 5th, 2022. So union also wanted me to get fired. It was my understanding that going to the court would be the next step after the management denied the grievance. More than 3 months after my suspension in May 2017, I emailed to Ashley Watkins from Unifor Local 2002. I'm quoting, I think it's time to remind the manager about our right to take legal action. End of the quote. I'm saying legal action, not the next level. The same day, Ashley Watkins emailed to the respondent. I'm quoting, as you know, we met on July 13th, 2017 for grievance number 362-0517. Since then, we have repeatedly been asking for certain information for the last 2 months, but we have yet to receive response from Porter. This email will serve notes should we not receive a response to our issues before the end of the week. We will be advancing the grievance to a third party. End of the quote. I didn't know what a third party meant at that time. On September 6, 2017, David Robinson, union representative, emailed to the respondent. I'm quoting, we discussed our concern regarding non-union representation at the grievance meeting we had with Luis Gonzalez, the manager, John Stepanopoulos from People and Culture joined the meeting via conference call, and then they both said they would provide follow-up regarding this concern. We have not been presented with a letter signed by Bakhtier refusing union representation, nor have we been given proof that a representative was present in that meeting. End of the quote. Porter Airlines didn't respond to above emails. Neither union took appropriate measures to follow the matter until the end. In October 2017, Ashley Watkins responded to my email where I asked about the outcome of the grievance. He wrote that my case was closed and union wasn't obliged to let me know about the outcome, as it was the union's grievance, not mine. That hiring a lawyer for further steps to take the matter to the court would be costly. Not taking the case to the next level, not letting me know about the outcome of the grievance, and not explaining to me about the next levels, the union violated my right and didn't fulfill its obligation to the member who paid his fees regularly. Ashley Watkins didn't say anything about what the real next step would be the union had to take according to the collective agreement. Hiring a lawyer would be costly meant for me that going to a court would be the next level, actually. Dennis Cochrane, assistant to the president of Unifor, lies in the union's response in the table in the paragraph 54. I haven't known her before. She contacted me for the first time in the middle of December 2021 by email. It happened after I asked the union representatives to file a grievance on my human rights complaint. It's an absolute lie that the union provided me with options and steps and I didn't follow them. It's absolute lie. Union did nothing about the allegations mentioned in the table to the paragraph 54. Dennis Cochrane on purpose gave the Human Rights Commission misleading information, and the Commission relied on it with no hesitation. I wish the Commission did the same towards me too. After the respondent fired me on March 3, 2022, I asked the union to file a grievance because Porter Airlines played a one-way street game again to retaliate and get rid of me. The grievance was rejected by Porter Airlines. Then I asked the union about what could be done. Only at that time I was told for the first time that the union could take the matter to the vice president of the respondent. Meeting with the vice president also didn't result in a positive outcome. When I asked the union to file a complaint with a labor relations board, at that time, I was told that the next step would be arbitration. And arbitration is scheduled for January 30, 2024. My response to paragraphs 61 and 62. The Commission has confused my human rights complaint with the events that happened after I was fired by the respondent on March 3, 2022. The union, Dennis Cochrane, didn't speak to me at all about the allegations made in paragraph 53. None of them has never spoken to me about complaint. So Dennis Cochrane misled the Human Rights Commission. She presents the late actions taken after I was fired. If it was about my human rights complaint, what happened is on March 3rd, 2022, respondent fired me with a fake reason and I asked the union to file a grievance. After the grievance was denied, the union explained me the next step. The union decided to take my case to arbitration because they agreed that I was fired unfairly. In this case, the union had to act according to the rules because they knew about my human rights complaint. My response to paragraph 63. The Human Rights Commission confused and mixed up two completely different issues with the uniform and later with the national union. Pearl Almeida is not just another union representative, as per Andre Ann Roy, the human rights officer, but she is a national union representative. Neither Pearl Almeida from National Union nor other representatives have ever explained to me how to file a harassment complaint. On March 11, 2022, Pearl Almeida emailed the Human Rights Commission the result of reviewing of my request to file a grievance on my human rights complaint. They just reviewed it. Just please understand it clearly. They did not file a grievance as I asked and as I was advised to do by Human Rights Commission. Then it happened 8 days after I was fired. Later in June 2022, Pearl Almeida misrepresented the facts while talking to the human rights officer. I was explained the steps the union could take about my termination of employment only, but never about my human rights complaint. The union didn't even know what to do with my request to file a grievance on my human rights complaint and had no courage to discuss it with the respondent. Dennis Cochrane couldn't even bring it to the respondent because Porter Airlines lied that they didn't receive the Commission's decision dated July 28, 2022. This fact shouldn't have stopped the union from filing a formal grievance. In February 22, 2 months after my request to file a grievance, I had to email the Commission and let it know about the union's inertness. After that, the Human Rights Officer contacted Dennis Cochrane by the phone to clarify the situation with my complaint. After the phone call from the Human Rights Commission, the union decided to transfer my request to the National Union without even asking for my opinion or permission. New hires are given a lot of documents and employees usually don't read them. CSRs don't even read the employment contracts. I didn't read it either before signing my contract. I've spoken to the union representatives about discrimination and harassment, hoping and expecting they'd advise some help or explain what to do. But they only listened to me and showed their solidarity with me. So refer to the employee handbook, which outlines the process, is simply avoidance of responsibility and putting the burden to the member of the union who pays fees. In my previous submissions, I provided the Commission with the new facts of discrimination that happened after my complaint was accepted by the Human Rights Commission. The respondent opposes them fiercely. It was my understanding that the Commission would add them to my current complaint as the same parties were involved. It would save the Commission time and resources. Later, I was advised that I better file a new complaint on the later issues and start a new process all over again. Paragraph 64. Pearl Almeida misled the Human Rights Commission about the issue with my flight benefits. From the beginning, David Robinson, the union representative, let me know that flight benefits were Porter Airlines' exclusive prerogative, and the union couldn't interfere. He attended the meeting held on January 11, 2020, mentioned by Pearl Almeida, to talk about the harassment by the assistant managers back in April 2019 and 5 coaching I was giving on December 29, 2019. After the meeting I had with 2 representatives of the union. On January 11, 2020, David Robinson didn't raise the issues he had to discuss with the manager. I made it more than clear that I never trusted the union. Because of a few months after I started working for Porter Airlines, I overheard that the person who initiated the unionization of Porter Airlines was paid a 6-digit reward. Unionization saved thousands of dollars to the respondent. That's the reason why the union has never protected my rights until the logical end. Representatives of the union were hired by the respondent before 2010, a long time ago. I witnessed that while representing the union, they would never go against the management. Unifor Local 2002 didn't use all resources available to protect me and discriminated against me as well. But the Commission completely ignored my concerns I mentioned in my submission and communications. Paragraph 65 to 71. All CSRs were unionized on April 26, 2015, e.g. 2.5 months prior I was fired. Before that, all CSRs had a $1 wage increase every year and some other benefits. Union's agreement with Porter kept all those wage increases and benefits for those who had already been working before the collective agreement was signed. But the agreement stripped off $1 yearly wage increase and other benefits of those who were hired after the agreement was signed. All newly hired CSRs would get only $0.15 to $0.20 of wage increase a year. So I was unhappy with the fact that the union didn't protect the new hires' benefits. I assumed this was unfair because performing the same job, I would get paid much less than other CSRs. Paragraph 72. The Human Rights Commission erred, writing that Jordan Gottlieb had recently joined the team. He was hired on July 15, 2015, the same time as I was. We went through the training in the same class. He became the union representative in December 2019. After the layoff, we were called back to work on August 15, 2021. During the training in late August, Jordan Gottlieb made an announcement in the class. He said that the respondent couldn't suspend any CSRs for refusing to wear a mask, that it would constitute a human rights violation, that any CSR who would face such a problem could ask the union for protection and the union would file a grievance. A month later, Jordan Gottlieb was fired by the respondents. Paragraph 73. On January 11, 2020, when the meeting with the manager was held, I didn't know that I had to ask the union to file a grievance. Besides, flight benefits are the respondent's prerogative, and the union can't interfere with. My flight benefits were suspended, whereas other non-Muslim CSR's same benefits weren't suspended under the same conditions. They were allowed to use them while on a sick leave or bereavement leave. Adelaida Ortega, for example, who missed work for a whole week, was promoted to the Learning and Development Department because her husband is a Caucasian. But the respondent showed its intolerance and hatred towards a Muslim employee. Paragraph 74. The Human Rights Commission wrote, the union thought that the issue had been resolved. Okay, when the union and its representatives think, then it's okay for Human Rights Commission. But when it comes to me to assume and think, then it's not approved by the Human Rights Commission. Double standard again. Reading this paragraph, I remembered a saying in my culture that translates as Where will you go to file a complaint if the judge rapes your mother? Paragraph 76. A few days later, I received the human rights decision dated July 28, 2021. I was called back to work. I was very cautious. I didn't tell anyone at Porter Airlines about my complaint filed with the Human Rights Commission. I expected the respondent to approach me and discuss my complaint, because in its submissions back in May 2021, Porter Airlines wrote that it would react immediately to any allegations of discrimination. Dennis Cochrane from the Union Local 2002 emailed me saying Porter Airlines informed her that the respondent didn't receive any decision from the Commission. Who is deceiving me? The respondent, the Union, or the Human Rights Commission? It seems to me that those three entities are fighting against me together. Please, conclusion. On January 3rd, 2020, I contacted the Human Rights Commission for the first time, but I was able to submit my complaint in the acceptable form on May 10, 2020 only, because it was very hard psychologically remembering those events of discrimination. I thought the date January 3rd, 2020 would be considered as the date of my complaint. I knew from the beginning that I was going to go against a very powerful company such as Porter Airlines, which has a good relationship with the high-level authorities. The respondent is purchasing a Brazilian-made 90 jet aircrafts in the amount of more than $5.5 billion. I've seen American TV shows which reveal the secret ties between courts, judges, and respondents. Now I am fighting against the Human Rights Commission itself, which is supposed to be on my side after reading my complaint and further submissions. I've never thought, even in my wildest dreams, that the Human Rights Commission would be biased towards me while dealing with my complaint and evaluate it one-sided only. From the beginning, the Commission treated me differently while dealing with my complaint. I filed my complaint initially against both Porter Airlines and Ports Toronto. However, Mrs. Vanessa Davidson, human rights officer, erroneously separated Ports Toronto from my complaint, whereas both respondents must have been presented under the single case file, as they are intricately interconnected and they are jointly responsible for orchestrating my discriminative suspension and continuous discrimination. The main part of my complaint was to Ports Toronto, as its actions have become a continuous basis for ongoing discrimination against me by Porter Airlines, my former now employer. The Human Rights Commission excluded Ports Toronto from my complaint without duly informing me. I would have objected and still object under the submission to the separation of Ports Toronto. No formal decision was made about the exclusion or separation. I wasn't informed that a different file number was given to the complaint against Ports Toronto. Just using my initial complaint that was separated into a new file against Ports Toronto wouldn't be sufficient to show I was discriminated against continuously. Despite my thorough 13-page submission, the Commission has already wrongly decided not to deal with the separated part of my complaint due to a missed limitation period. Thus, a deliberate discrimination was allowed to go unpunished by the Human Rights Commission. Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, has apologized to Native people for the discrimination that happened more than a half-century ago. It's my understanding that Human Rights Commission also decided to pay a big amount as compensation to the native people. I speak Uzbek, Russian, Turkish, and some Farsi. English is the fifth and the most recent language I learned. In my case, I didn't miss the limitation period knowingly, and I brought reasonable excuses in my previous submissions, emails, and verbal communications. The only question here is, why is the Human Rights Commission not understanding my English? I'm making this submission public. There is a Russian proverb, hope dies last. I asked the Commission again to deal with my complaint and set up the hearing date. I reached the last line of the page 10. Thank you for your patience and attention. If you were patient enough and listened to my submission until the very end, you may realize that even Human Rights Commission of Canada may be prejudiced towards visible minorities like me. If you have ever filed a complaint, human rights complaint with the Commission and had a similar experience like mine, you may leave your comment, and your comment will be muchly appreciated. This is Bakhtier Shakhnazar from Toronto, Canada. Take care of yourself. Bye.